We co-evolve with our tools. We change our tools, and then our tools change us. Certainly, the book has probably changed us more than any other tool. For 500 years, it's been this incredibly important tool for humanity.
Books are the foundation of civilization. You walk into someone's house, what's the first thing you look at as a literate human being? You look at their library.
This can sound romantic, but the feel of a book, the texture of the paper, even its smell, they are the best way of preserving information ever invented.
But in the digital age, we really have to start questioning what a book really is, because they will soon cease to exist in large part.
Technological changes are transforming the world of words.
The very nature of information and the way in which it's presented is changing, and it's certainly an exciting time.
This generation will still be attached, but a couple of generations down may not even know what a book is.
Is the experience of sitting down and reading an entire book disappearing? I have some questions.
Do I think that people read full books now? No. You know, unless it's a Danielle Steele novel that you're reading on the beach, I think it's actually kind of rare that people read a full book.
The danger is that there's a possibility that we are now starting to read at a more surface level rather than in depth.
Our children, I think, are lurching from one entertaining piece of information to the next. They aren't learning how to think.
Every aspect of the written world has changed, from publishing to writing, to selling and to reading. If books are the foundation of society, how does that change the world of ideas? And how does it change us?
At some point in that mysterious afternoon, someplace in the deserts of Mesopotamia, somebody realized that they could set down a code that could be deciphered, and thereby invented reading, and thereby invented writing, and thereby invented Hamlet and Alice in Wonderland and all our literatures and imaginary creations.
Writing was not invented to transmit literature, nor was it invented to write letters. Writing began as an administrative technology, as a bureaucratic technology, that was one of the solutions to the problem of urban density and complexity.
This is one of our most famous scrolls that charted the life and ancestry of Christ. Of course, it starts with Adam and Eve.
We had scrolls, and people thought, oh, we can get so much information here in a single scroll.
It can take up to 60, sometimes 80 scrolls to do a small-sized book. You can only roll up so much material.
And then people realized you couldn't get information at the end of a scroll without unrolling the whole thing, and so they started chomping it up and making codexes, the precursor to books.
The codex is just the book as we know it. It's a wonderful invention, but it was new around the time of the birth of Christ. It was actually connected with the spread of Christianity because Christian writings spread through this new machine, the codex, and it spread like wildfire. Of course, the invention of movable type is a great breakthrough.
Printing is more essential to man's progress than any other art. By means of printing, the fund of knowledge accumulated through the ages is available to everyone, rich and poor alike.
1450, quando Gutenberg inventa la tipografia, per noi forse è difficile renderci conto della rivoluzione che ha portato la tipografia. Si dice questo, non era un'invenzione di tipo culturale, cioè Gutenberg voleva risolvere un problema pratico, riprodurre in poco tempo, a basso prezzo, un testo. Non a caso poi sappiamo che la riforma userà ampiamente la tipografia per diffondersi, al di là della Germania, e quindi in Italia, in Francia, negli altri paesi, insomma.
The physical book as an object is so elegant and so suited to its task. It's been evolving for 500 years. When you get into an author's words, you can really forget about that physical object. It disappears, which is a fantastic trick for a technology to be able to disappear like that. And the physical book is a technology.
Something like an important general reading public emerged around the time of the American Revolution. And the book developed itself a kind of democratic potential. Then came the Industrial Revolution, but the next big change is just yesterday.
The new era of not only the internet, not only the World Wide Web, not only search engines, but these fabulously talented engineers who are creating algorithms to find for you, the reader, exactly what you want to find, these have changed the world. And so the information that is now at the fingertips of people is quite different from the information that existed only 10 years ago.
What format do you read in?
What format? Isn't that an odd question?
The Kindle,
Could you even imagine that question 10 years ago?
Isn't that a bit? 10 years ago.
2005 was the tipping point. This was the year when adolescents started reading more on the internet than they did in traditional materials.
We learn a lot through the computer now. Like, that's not what you guys did, so I guess the way that we're reading is different, but I don't think the information that we're reading is that much different.
I think that it's pretty different because when I'm on the internet, I'll just search like, I don't know, something about snowboarding or whatever. And then if I'm reading a book, that's something that I'm being forced to read, so I'm thinking about how much I'd rather be sleeping or how much I don't want to read this book or stuff like that.
I know personally, when I'm doing like homeworks and things like that involve like textbook work, I go and look for the answers or like Google up the answer. I'm not sitting there reading the little details.
My friend's mom blocks Facebook, like in the afternoon, like when she's doing homework, when she's on the computer and says she's doing homework. And I kind of wish my mom did that. Like, I think that would be very helpful.
Usually, we equate a book with the physical object itself. In English, we even use the same word, book, to describe both the story written on the page and the glue, paper, and binding to convey it. But now, contents no longer need the container. They are accessible anywhere, anytime, at a moment's notice. This has turned the business of books inside out.
You know, more books are published every year than in the previous year. In print, we are producing 1 million new books a year worldwide. 1 million. So the printed book is doing very well, thank you. But individual publishers can be doing miserably. But that doesn't mean the end of publishing. I think that publishers have to devise new strategies for making the most of the digital world.
You know, at one point I called it an evolution, that the publishing industry was going to evolve. Absolutely not. It's been a revolution. And it even surprises me, and I'm hard to surprise. Open Road was founded to be a digital-only company. We have now close to 250 authors and close to 3,000 titles. When I first started, I was looking conservatively at digital being 10% of the business. I now think that it is clear that there are certain categories where digital may go to 80%, and that is in the very popular fiction arena. Ebooks take no time to produce. There's none of the baggage of the paper, print, bind, inventory, transportation, get it out of boxes onto shelves. It's press a button and it's there. The fact is that buying things online is now something we all do. This is very positive for readers because readers will buy one, finish, click, and for a reasonable price buy number 2, and for a reasonable price click again and buy number 3. The publishing industry has been too slow to pick up this trend. I think that most of the publishers really wanted to just ignore it. By the time they realized they couldn't, it was so ever-present that you start running scared, and that's when mistakes get made.
The whole book industry, publishing and bookselling, has become modeled on the supermarket model. So what you produce are objects of easy sale that have a shelf life. They're almost stamped like eggs saying sell by so-and-so date. And whatever isn't sold disappears. So there is, once again, no room for the past, no room for things to grow.
Since I became a professional writer, increasingly it's become a winner-take-all world in literature. For best-selling authors, it was great. You reduce the price of the book, it's become a more concentrated market. Best-selling authors make much more money. But as president of the Authors Guild and as an American, I am not concerned with what lines my pockets, but the overall cultural situation. We have begun to enter an era where it is much, much harder for professional writers and authors to survive as a class. There will always be new authors. People will always burn with the urge to write. But as the outlets for sales become more concentrated, writers discover that they have not made enough money to support themselves, and of course they have to look for alternatives. I want to see cultural diversity, diversity of expression, and an opportunity for more people to make a livelihood as writers.
More and more agents are complaining they can't sell their book, the books that they're representing. More and more authors are saying they can't get an agent, and if they can't get an agent, they can't get a publisher, and it's a vicious circle. So they've leaned toward self-publishing.
I wrote my first novel in the early 2000s, years ago, when I was still working full-time as an attorney. I did it mostly in the evenings after work, on the weekends. It took me about 2.5 years to write. So my agent made a valiant effort, but because it was a first novel and it was a quiet story and I was completely unknown, nobody was willing to take the risk and put it out there. So I put the book in the drawer. Lots of things sort of happened and I kind of put writing on the back burner for a while. But I started reading about how ebooks and these things called Kindles and Nooks were becoming very popular. And I thought, well, this might be an interesting course of action. So I thought, well, maybe if I put my work out there as an ebook, I could get some feedback on my work. And I wanted to use that to improve my writing. I never expected anything big to happen with my first book, but I thought maybe gradually over the course of months or years, maybe I could sell several hundred to 1,000 copies and gradually get my name out there as a writer. I uploaded it to the Kindle store in May 2011. I think I sold about 100 copies the first month, and I thought that was amazing. That was more than I ever expected to sell so quickly. At the end of June, my book was mentioned on a website that offers recommendations for ebooks. As a result of that mention, I sold another 600 copies within just a couple days. So this blew me away. I was stunned. I had done some inexpensive marketing, ads placed on these websites that recommend ebooks. I did some blog interviews with people, but nothing really expensive. I spent about $1,000 for the entire attempt at trying to, market my book and let people know that it was available. I also kept my prices very low because I thought if I price it very cheaply, maybe people will take a chance on it. I'm watching the sales figures from Amazon and from Barnes & Noble, and every week they are ticking up and ticking up. And then they're starting to snowball. I called my agent and I said, you know, something is happening. I'm not quite sure what, but I just wanted to let you know that the numbers seem to be going crazy. So in August, she called me and she said, Darcy, your book is going to be on the New York Times bestseller list. I can't even describe how that was. I sort of kind of get chills just thinking about that. To date, more than 650,000 copies have sold, and I never expected to have that result when I hit the upload button in May.
I'm a big fan of self-publishing. I am glad that people can, in some instances, find a large readership. The cases where that happens are extremely small.
I think there was something like 700,000 self-published books last year. So the fact is that I think self-publishing is an alternative, but it's going to be the few and far between book that gets any attention and any sales.
In terms of what worked for me, I've thought a lot about it, and I'm not quite sure that I even have the answer. My next book will be published by Ballantine Books, which is a division of Random House. I'm one of the people who still thinks that there's a lot of value in a traditional publisher. I really am thrilled that I won't have to do everything by myself. I won't have to do the cover, I won't have to do the editing, I won't have to do the formatting, the marketing. All of those things which you have to be responsible for if you self-publish take away from your writing time. The other thing is you still can't get a self-published book into the retail stores where people that read those books usually buy them.
Bookstores traditionally have been where new authors and ideas get their first exposures. They are where you, the reader, can get face-to-face recommendations for books from people you trust. Now, that relationship is changing as more and more book sales go online. That alters our relationships with the books themselves.
My name is Fred Bass, and I run the Strand bookstore with my daughter, Nancy Bass. It was started by my dad, Benjamin Bass, in 1927. We think we are one of the largest used bookstores in the country and definitely in the world. There used to be 48 bookstores running from Union Square down to 8th Street. They're all gone now. We are the last survivor. The world is changing very fast, and the digital world is stepping in, and that's what's going to take over. There's no way we can compete with Amazon on it or Google. And anybody who tries to do it on their own, there's no way they can do it, period. And that's it.
If the market determines that bookstores are not worth having, then so be it. My present concern, though, is that Amazon, by selling what are called front list ebooks, that is, the books that are in most demand, by selling them below cost, are creating artificial incentives for people to move from physical books to ebooks. And I don't think that that's right. If you destroy the physical bookstore by allowing predatory pricing, it's going to be much harder for new authors to get a foothold in this market.
Thanks very much.
Our point of view was very different. One of the things that Amazon has changed is it has made it easier for people to find that hard-to-find book. So it has increased the diversity of availability. That was really our founding idea. Unless you are a best-selling author, It can be hard to get your book not only noticed, but somebody has to actually find your book, which may not be that easy.
Amazon was very important to the success of my book. I know that they do a lot of internal marketing efforts. They're able to tell what kinds of books people like, and therefore when they recommend a book to one of their customers, it's based on previous purchases and previous kinds of books that that person has read. So I do think that that really helped to get my book in front of potential readers.
You know, I admire a lot of the creativity that Amazon has brought to the literary marketplace, and I despise the ruthlessness with which they act as competitors. They could do a lot more good with a little less savagery.
We think we will survive because of the book itself and the type of books we have, the antiquarian sort of decorative things that people want. In fact, we may become a curiosity. In 20 or 30 years, people come and say, would you like to see this curious store? Has all this old stuff. There's got to be a need for somebody to have a store like mine be selling that stuff. I think the really people that are going to hurt are the libraries. There won't be any need to go to the library to look up something. It'd be much faster to do it right through your computer or right through your phone. The big university libraries and many of the public libraries certainly will start disappearing.
Gabriel Naudet, questo intellettuale francese, nel 1627 pubblica un'opera sull'idea di costruire biblioteche. I nobili praticamente dovranno impegnarsi a costruire biblioteche e a renderle pubbliche, a renderle aperte per tutti.
Libraries began to occupy my life when I was 6 years old, and every Monday night I ran to the library, a Carnegie library at the center of Waukegan. Carnegie was the genius who affected all of our lives. He gave the libraries to every state in the Union, in every city, and he gave them free as gifts of knowledge. There was a typing room in the basement of the library, and I got a bag of dimes and moved in, 10 cents a half hour, and in 9 days, I wrote the first version of Fahrenheit 451.
Making access universal. That has been the traditional role of libraries. They provide open access to information for the entire population.
But the internet allows for a much wider dissemination of knowledge and an easier access to information by larger groups.
Do you guys even go to the library anymore?
I mean, when we do research, like, we're not going to go to the library and look through 2 big books, go to the glossary, like, index and stuff. We'll just Google it, it's right there.
One of my first official times getting information from the library was probably one of the hardest experiences of my life. There were so many books, so many different things. Like, each book was specific to one thing. It's not like you could find one big book filled with everything that you needed. So I was like, this is terrible. Like, I just want to Google it.
Hi.
Hi, I was just wondering where I could find Hamlet.
The book or the movie?
The book.
822.33, and it's around the elevator in the back.
I think the funding for libraries is a very touchy issue because we're not a commercial entity, we're not a money-making entity, and we're dependent on state budgets for this funding. And that comes and goes with whatever the budget crisis is for this year. So when you get off the elevator, there's a bunch of cabinets that look like this over here, and they're all to the right. Right now, we're seeing a surge in requests to purchase reference books that are ebooks because people want to be able to use everything online. And I don't know how the library is going to accommodate that because the pricing is very high for digital access, and there's still this fear of, will we be able to have access to that digital reference book in the future?
With the advent of digital technology, the focus on physical objects has changed, and we're seeing that people use libraries more to interact with each other rather than a storehouse for books.
Libraries are great meeting places, and I think that that has to be more developed today.
Libraries are evolving into something which very much resembles the initial libraries of the ancients. It was filled with places for conversation, places for openness. We're seeing coffee shops in libraries. We're seeing other types of media. They're becoming more integrated with ordinary life.
Digital publication is exciting, it's thrilling, it's magnificent, but it does have problems. One of the problems is preservation. Digital texts are fragile. As you know, they're made up of tiny little ones and zeros. If only a few of them unravel, the entire text can be destroyed. There's a problem of obsolescence. The hardware and the software can become obsolete.
You know, I have some floppy disks buried in my desk, and who knows if I will ever go back to it or find a machine where it works.
Pochi anni fa si erano inventate le cassette VHS e quindi io, per esempio, ho una serie di film eccetera, che adesso non si possono più usare, non esiste più. Se guardiamo un libro del 1470, normalmente si presenta come se fosse uscito dalla tipografia ieri, quindi
And then there's a problem that many people don't appreciate, and that's the problem of finding a digital text in cyberspace. So it may be preserved, but how are you going to find it? You put all that together, and the problems of preservation are gigantic. No information comes free. Who's going to pay the cost of large masses of information?
Google, a number of years ago, entered into an arrangement with 7 major university libraries and scanned their entire collections and proposed to make snippets of these books available to Google users.
Google may be in a position to exercise too much power, because what if they cut it off, or what if they use it for untoward ends?
They are a commercial enterprise that, if they want, can put ads on every page and end up by charging us fortunes for using Hamlet or Moby Dick.
What they ended up doing is something that would privatize what has been public. They are making a privately owned copy of many, many works that are already in the public domain. They are reversing the Carnegie model of making knowledge available to the masses. They're saying, all right, we'll make knowledge available to the masses, but the masses have to pay for it.
The Authors Guild sued Google over that. Google says, well, we're only showing each customer a little snippet, and that's a fair use under the copyright laws.
The fair use provision means that for certain uses, it's legal to make copyrighted books available without paying the owners of the copyright.
The copyright law has always allowed that. For example, you can quote from a book in a book review. We say, as the Authors Guild, that's baloney. You are using the entire book. You'll display a snippet to 1,000 different customers, and every time you display that snippet, you're making money because you're selling advertising on the side of the page.
They violated copyright, and so they were sued. And what always happens in these cases, secret negotiations for, I think, 4.5 years.
The settlement that we all agreed on, which I thought was in the best interests of authors, publishers, and the American public, unfortunately was not approved.
The judge threw it out because he said it violated the Sherman Antitrust Act, and that meant Google Book Search was dead. The major concern is democratization of access to knowledge. We don't want a monopoly of access to knowledge. Knowledge belongs to the people. So I think we should open it up and, so to speak, democratize it, make it accessible to everyone. It all began with a conference here at Harvard that I invited a group of leaders of foundations, of libraries, computer engineers. We discussed the possibility of creating a public library for the people that would be digital, and we called it the Digital Public Library of America. We are creating a system that will interlock the research collections of the major libraries in this country in cooperation with Europe, and we will create a so-called distributed network, which means that books digitized in Chicago, Los Angeles, Texas, will all be linked up in one virtual library. We feel that as a public institution for the public good, unlike Google, we should be able to take advantage of the fair use provision.
You know, Darnton says that Google didn't go far enough and that we should just digitize everything and there should be open access to it. Again, I guess my response is pretty simple. It's essential to protect copyright. If individual authors choose to make works available as a matter of public access, they can and should. But the idea that those who want to make their work available for free should be diminishing the opportunity of people to make a living as writers is frankly a baffling position to me. You know, we are in a capitalist society. People create products and expect to be rewarded for doing that. If we want to have a communist society, that's fine. And there can be equal and open access to all kinds of goods and services and capital. But as long as we're stuck with the capitalist model, then it has to apply to everybody. I am appalled when you select a single class of people in the society and say, what you create is going to be given away. I notice that nobody is saying that to General Motors or Microsoft, or frankly, even to universities.
I think the big problem is that we have a world full of information consumers who are happy to get information from any number of sources, but unwilling to pay for it. This is not a hypothetical issue for me. I am now of an age where my kids and my peers' kids are starting to think about having jobs. And all of my journalist friends, basically like their jobs, but think, would you tell a kid to go work at a newspaper? You'd have to be out of your mind. So what do they do if they want to be in communications? I don't know exactly. Information is not free. Someone ultimately has to pay for it, or it won't be done.
And that's a key point. People say, well, if people don't get paid, they won't contribute. That's just not so. And people are getting paid. Perhaps not with money in this particular instance, but with the collective resource that they all can use.
I would hope that this library will serve new authors in at least two ways. The first way is it will make information accessible to them too. You don't just sit down and write a book, you do research. Two, it will help get access to their works. Okay, we're not going to help them make 1 million, but we will help them reach 1 million readers.
Do I believe that knowledge should be widely disseminated? Of course I do. And do I, as an author, and most authors, crave readers? Of course I do. But again, if you destroy the livelihood of writers, fewer people will write, the culture will be poorer in the long run.
Of course, everyone wants a world where books and writers promote the free flow of ideas. But perhaps the bigger question is, will there be anyone there to read them? Are the troubles of the publishing industry because of technology, or because people just don't read books anymore?
One thing is clear, that we have a distressingly high rate of illiteracy or functional illiteracy in this country, and that most Americans don't read books. I think more Americans read books in the 17th century than they do in the 21st century, proportionately.
If you look at technology over the last 20 years, most of our connected devices, whether it be a smartphone or a laptop, these are very good for reading news articles, email messages, blog posts. We humans do more of what is convenient and easy for us. And so I think there has been a shift over the last 20 years away from long-form reading, book-length reading, and toward short-form reading.
I read a lot of sports blogs.
I'm on Twitter a lot. I do use Facebook every day.
I read all day long, but I read a lot of blogs and news articles.
And about music, TechCrunch,
News,
the latest discussions.
It is an addiction. I feel like I have to check Facebook every 5 minutes.
It is a constant set of distractions, constant continuous bombardment. You go here and then you're immediately attracted to this other direction of thought. My question is, are we reading better, or are we just accruing information without true knowledge?
It is a different experience to read something online or read the newspaper online. It's a totally different experience.
I think it becomes an addiction. For example, every day in the morning I'll go and check out the newspaper online, and then whatever I choose to read, I'm really just getting quick snippets. Then I'll go to TMZ.com. Then I'll go to AOL.com. Then I'll go to Facebook. And sometimes I do
the same thing.
You do? I do it more than 3 times a day.
And I do the same thing that you do. And every time I do, it's like, oh, this is the way I feel when I stand in front of the refrigerator and can't stop eating, It's like, just stop.
It's really amazing. I don't know. I don't know that I like it. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not sure it's such a great thing.
Il rischio, secondo me, è proprio quello della cultura in pillole, cioè dell'informazione parcellizzata, frammentata, divisa, senza avere poi una visione d'insieme, insomma, no? Questo potrebbe essere un grosso rischio, consentito in particolare dai mezzi audiovisivi.
If texting, handheld devices, the internet leads us to a world where the great mass of the population is exchanging messages all the time, but never reading, I think it would be a great pity if only professionals or a tiny elite sat down and read books through.
To read in a deeper sense, to discover that somewhere, someone whom you don't know has written a page for you describing your deepest fears, your most secret ambitions, that kind of reader is very rare.
In a 300-page book, you can learn things that you can't learn from short-form writing. You can almost live an entire alternate life, and that's what I find I get from novels. I think I've learned more from reading novels than I have from reading nonfiction books.
There's also a profoundly anti-democratic effect when people turn their backs on the opportunity to read. If you don't have a citizenry that's trained to think precisely about ideas, then your democracy increasingly will be one of know-nothings. As long as people accept the illusion that they don't have to learn to read and write well, they will essentially be locking themselves out of any opportunity to actually take the levers of power in this society.
What scares me today is that we are under an avalanche of technological developments that are pushed by the industry for commercial reasons. It is the production of gadgets in order to make a financial profit. There is a question in Roman law that seems to me essential. And the question is, cui bono? Whom does this benefit?
We are absolutely trained sociologically and culturally to lurch to the next new thing without proper examination of what is being lost. I have these questions for the adult brain, but even more importantly, what is the effect on the young?
We know that kids are spending much less time in front of books than they were, that the television had been a distraction, but now we know that the internet has really changed the way children read, the way children communicate, the way the children spend their time. Schools have this crucial role because as the world changes, kids are the ones growing up in a society that is going to be radically different than what it is today. And that's a daunting task.
They've become so visually saturated during their off hours when they're not involved with us during the daytime that The Great Gatsby, it's a movie, fabulous. I want to watch the movie and I'm not going to read the book.
They get a book and they see that it's this thick and they freak out. And it's too long for them and they immediately shut down. They don't want to read it.
We're trying to teach them to appreciate the beauty of the English language and the written word. They don't want it. They just want to suck it up like a sponge and get it in there fast so they can print it back out and speed it back out to us.
They want what's easiest and what's quickest. They don't want to go and actually read the material themselves. They want to go to the place where someone's already read it and is summarizing it for them.
At college, I always use sparknotes.com, and it definitely gives me the gist of the story without reading the book. I like to read, but it's just available to me, so.
I haven't read a single book this year. I just go on SparkNotes and just read summaries, and I get the same grades as people that do read the book.
It's crucial that students read full books from cover to cover. The idea that we would somehow ditch all of our literary heritage strikes me as absurd. I can't imagine any parent would want a student to go to a university or a high school, even an elementary school, and simply read snippets.
Can anyone think about in this sequence what is happening to the
You know, one of the things I think is also important to recognize is that our brains aren't really designed to do any of this stuff. Our brains aren't designed to read. They're not designed to engage in online environments. So no matter what, our brains are changing and they have to adapt in some way, and it's an ongoing struggle.
We know reading has a lot of effects on cognition. It's a portal to knowledge of every kind. Studies have been done comparing adults who are literate or who haven't had the chance to become literate. And even tasks that don't involve any reading are approached differently by the literate adults. They're much more comfortable with abstractions, with concepts.
Okay, we're getting ready to go into the spaceship, right? And in magnets, you can't have any
metal.
Good. So let's see if you have any metal. Do you have any metal on you?
A fascinating question is how the internet and all the ways of communication, how does that change our relation to ideas compared to a world of books and texts? The challenging thing about that is, on the one hand, we know it's got to be hugely important. It's a total immersion for young people.
So this is her brain here. This is a cerebellum down here. This is a picture this way through your brain like this.
On the other hand, it's scientifically incredibly hard to answer. And that's because we would have to compare one generation to another.
We have studied what goes on in the brain when we're multitasking. You think, oh, it's so much more efficient. The reality is that the brain is not parallel processing. It's moving from thing to thing to thing. It has to move its attention from thing to thing. And in the net process of knowledge gained, it is actually more efficient to learn each one thing well.
I can tell you that both of my kids definitely have Facebook on while they're studying. I've walked in more than one occasion to see that Facebook is on. I've gotten on more than one occasion that they're discussing the work, and so it's actually helpful to be communicating, and you know, who's to know if that's actually true or not.
I get anxious, honestly, when I don't have internet or like access.
Yeah.
Like it's sad and true, but
I have my phone next to me. If I fall asleep and someone calls me, I wake up and I answer.
Yeah.
That's something that's really interesting.
We tend to think that our youngsters are digital natives, that they know all of this stuff. But when it comes to information on the internet, some people refer to them as digital doofuses because they really struggle with information. We did a study with some of the 50 best online readers who were 7th graders. Our students told us, yeah, you can't believe anything you read on the internet. But then we took them to a site called Save the Pacific Northwest Tree Octopus. And every single one of them thought it was reliable. Every single one.
Where is the time for thoughtful reflection or complex arguments? Kids are getting their information easily, but the analysis has to take place somewhere. What I worry about is that instead of analysis, there is a compilation of these little bits of information, and they sort of do a triage, a mental triage that is not very well thought out sometimes. I mean, that to me is the danger.
That discourse goes back quite a ways. I remember when I was growing up, I was part of the MTV generation, right? Which is the generation that couldn't pay attention beyond 4 minutes because that's how long a music video is. And now people say the same thing, but they talk about YouTube videos. The reality is, though, we still see students engaging for long periods of time, even in books, right? I mean, it's not that they're reading like the deepest stuff, but like the Twilight series, Harry Potter, those stories are holding people's attention. So a good story is still holding people's attention, I think.
The risk of the information age is that you will just go for a snippet of Dante rather than reading all of Dante. But you know what? The people who are going for the snippet, they probably weren't going to read Dante anyway. So it's better for them to have the snippet than not.
We are at a moment in history where it is within our means to make it possible for anybody who wants to know something to learn as much as can be known by a person now. If you can give that power to the whole of humanity, why on earth would you not let that happen? If you can convey to human beings the right to know, what kind of ancestor are you if you stop it?
We're raising children to be ready for the world that they're going to inhabit. Then this is the world they're going to inhabit. And the world they're going to inhabit is going to be asking for them to respond instantly to demands from many different people. So one of the things that I think as teenagers they can learn is when there's a time to be a part of that community and be a part of that, and when there's time for no screen time. And I think that's the balance of life that they have to learn.
I don't think we have a choice. We don't have a choice, and this is where it's going. I mean, what can you do? Really, what can you do?
In the end, it all comes down to education. Students are the future of reading, and the world of knowledge depends on their continuing to read. That means they have to be trained in critical thinking, whether it applies to a book, or poetry, or scientific texts, but especially in the case of electronic sources. And the best people for the job of training them are the parents and teachers who influence their lives.
You know, one of the things that I think happens quite easily is people tend to vilify the internet and electronic media. And we can't always do that because it's just a tool. You know, it's how you use the tools that are available to you. So, you know, like you never hear of carpenters vilifying hammers. You know, they're just tools.
So now our jobs as educators has changed from teaching kids how to gather information to now really understanding when you're getting credible information. So you're not allowing kids to go for the surface and the snippets of information, right? But you're teaching them how to go deeper.
This may be perhaps one of the most valuable lessons we can teach our youngsters in schools, is that we don't just want to complete an assignment, we want to really understand it. We want to use that information to think about it, create new knowledge that might help other people along the way.
We embraced a mindset as a society that says that if the parents are consumers and the children are products, then the teachers need to turn out a quality product. It just isn't a useful way to look at kids.
So you see the 4 themes?
Personally, I feel my job is really important being an English teacher because that really is like the tool you're giving them to access anything else they want.
If you can expose a student to a world of books, that student will forever get it and continue to read books.
What gives me hope for the future of reading are the young people who come to me from time to time and say, I've discovered this extraordinary writer called Hemingway, do you know him? And those are marvelous moments that happen again and again in every generation.
I don't worry that people will lose interest in 400-page books. I believe in diversity and choice. Let people choose. Everybody will find a place as long as a diverse market exists.
I don't care that people read books. I care that people read. And if they read it on a carbon byproduct or a Kindle or a computer screen, that doesn't particularly matter to me. What matters is the intellectual engagement, not the technology.
The best thing you can do for your child's future reading is to read to them the first moment they are in your lap. Under the crook of an arm, nothing is better for the development of concepts and language. And they never let you skip a page.
You know, in my classroom, like, it's not an option to not be a reader. Of course, that means I have to have lots of arguments with 13-year-olds, and of course, that means that some people give me evil looks because I'm making them read. But if I had a classroom where I allowed people to get away with not reading, then that's on me, that's not on kids.
It'll be magic to me if you manage to make sense of all of this, but it will be appreciated.